They nodded and began to murmur to each other about rooms in which were vacant. A few seconds later, Brittany excused herself to check on the room, and Blossom clapped her hands, turned her chair around, and reached forward to grab a key off the board behind her. Her fingers brushed the key at the top corner, but no matter how much she stretched, she couldn't touch it. As Carter stood there, the desire to help her rose up inside of him, but he wasn't sure if he could walk around the counter. Finally, he pushed his uncertainty away and rounded the desk. He reached up and grabbed the key from the hook and then slipped it into Blossom's petite hand. She sat back in her chair and stared down at the key. A few seconds passed, and she didn't say anything. Carter cleared his throat, desperate to find out if he'd made a mistake or not. "Thanks," she finally whispered as she closed her hand around the key, and then she turned her chair back to the desk. She finished writing something down in the book in front of her and pulled out some brochures. "This is the dining room schedule and Wi-Fi password. The one underneath is local restaurants and activities going on in Ivy Springs." She raised her gaze up to meet Carter's. Her bright green eyes mesmerized him. But when he looked closer, he saw a hint of sadness that caused him to pause. Had he offended her by helping? He took a moment to decide if he should ask her about it, but then decided against it. She probably didn't want to discuss it, and most likely didn't want to talk about it with a stranger. He knew what it was like to want to keep things private, and he could afford this woman that. He reached forward and took the key and brochures from her. He nodded and reached down to grab his suitcase. "Perfect," he said as he began to walk toward the stairs, and then he stopped when he realized that she hadn't told him what room. 6, she said before he turned around. Carter contemplated glancing over his shoulder for one last look at the intriguing woman. He wanted to say something, anything, to break the awkward silence that had fallen between them. But before he could decide if he should, Brittany had returned, and she and Blossom fell into conversation. Taking that as his cue to leave, Carter walked up the stairs to the second floor. He studied the doors until he found number 6. Once he was inside, he kicked off his shoes and grabbed a pair of gym shorts and a t-shirt. He was ready for bed. The drive had taken a toll on him, and he was exhausted. After a quick shower, he dressed and flopped down onto his bed. He plugged his phone into the charger and connected it to the Wi-Fi. He had a few missed messages from Tiffany. Once he assessed that they didn't include an immediate threat, he set his phone down and turned off the light. He'd call her in the morning to sort this mess out. Until then, he was going to close his eyes and attempt to forget the distant yet beautiful woman who seemed to have entered his brain and taken up residence there. If he could just do that, then maybe he'd be able to fall asleep.